Hey everyone, Derek here, and what you're about to listen to is the news roundup portion of our weekly Real Talk podcast, where we discuss major news topics that didn't already get their own discussion. Now, if you'd like to listen to the entire podcast, just click on the iTunes or SoundCloud links in the description below. And if you back us on Patreon, you can listen to our podcast 3 days early every Friday. So let's get to the news from this past week. You guys ready for the news?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
First up, we have a revealed Mega Man cartoon design and a few plot details revealed. So, there's been all this talk about for a while. The group Man of Action is developing, a Mega Man cartoon, and we finally got to look at it. And I thought it'd be for some reason I thought it'd be relatively faithful. I don't know why I got that feeling. I just did. And we saw the new design, and it's not great.
Yeah.
Are we talking like Sonic Boom levels of...
People have made that comparison.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
I would say it's actually more of a departure. I would say it's worse, a worse departure from like Sonic Boom's character designs. Like it's really, really not what we were expecting.
Yeah, that seems to be the biggest issue. I actually have seen people try to take this artwork and improve it, including the guy who does the artwork of the Archie comics. He sort of like took this design. He's like, I don't know all the details or anything like that, but I can kind of sort of see this working. And I think I'm in agreement with him about what is the biggest issue with it. It's the face and the eyes.
Yeah.
And people have done things where they fix that, and it looks so much better.
It does, but I'm still not a fan of the helmet. Like, even though it does look better, I've seen those kind of redesigns that you're talking about too, and still, the helmet throws it off for me.
Yeah, it's not... I can see it working. The thing is, it seems much more based off of X than Classic.
You think so? I don't get that idea at all.
Make that thing red instead of blue? Yeah.
I'm getting more of a Star Force vibe, to be honest, from everything. I'm getting kind of a Battle Network / Star Force vibe from everything, from the design of Mega Man himself to the whole setup that he is he's a normal school kid who, he has his normal school life and his alter ego is Mega Man. I mean, that's basically Mega Man Star Force in a nutshell.
Yeah, and he just happens to be a robot. And
yeah.
The thing is that I guess the big influence here is obviously Tron. That's what I think of immediately.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like, there is some heavy Tron inspiration for this. And you know what? It could still... Maybe the design's a little off. Okay. Maybe the rest of it will still work. But then you hear the plot details about him going to school, and, his name is now Aki Light.
Aki Light, yeah. I mean, what I think it's important to remember is that this is aimed at kids, 6 to 9, I think, 7 to 6 to 9. So it was never aimed at, us adult, long-time Mega Man fans. I don't think it was ever supposed to be that. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. That, of course, doesn't defend it if it turns out to be a bad show. But, I think Mega Man fans need to be open to the idea that, hey, this was never really meant for longtime fans. This is meant to get a whole new generation of kids into the concept of Mega Man. And I get that. The thing that bothers me more, or potentially bothers me more, is that, I feel like it's almost guaranteed there's going to be a game to tie in with this cartoon. And that's what worries me, is that if Mega Man's game identity ends up being based on this from now on, that'll bother me. But I don't mind the cartoon being its own kind of unique take on the Mega Man universe. I mean, I don't like the design, but it's not really meant for me, so I'm okay with that.
It really is a Sonic Boom situation.
Yeah.
It really does feel like it, because people were worried that the Sonic Boom designs would overtake everything else, and that's obviously not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think something similar will happen here. I don't think if there's a tie-in game, I don't think it'll be as bad as Sonic Boom, or as mediocre as it was.
Exactly. I think the game itself, if there is one, would be better.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's like, the thing is, seeing this design, seeing the description of it, this is basically going to be as good as Ben 10, the Ben 10 series, or what is it, the Generator Rex series?
Yeah.
Where they have this double life and whatnot, and they have this crazy cast of characters that you meet along the way, and they'll expand it upon as it goes along, and it just will not follow the established canon,
right?
Beyond a few basic things.
I mean, if anything, I'm more disappointed that it's so like conceptually, it just seems to be kind of exactly the MO for kids cartoons these days. I was hoping they might do something a little more interesting than that, but honestly, the kind of school kid life alter ego thing is pretty much exactly what I expected from this show, to be honest, even before we had details about it. I mean, it's essentially the old Dreamwave comic in cartoon format. That's exactly what the setup was in the Dreamwave comic. And I don't know, I kind of figured that's what it would be, and I'm just kind of disappointed that they didn't maybe... I feel like it's low-hanging fruit, you know? They didn't reach as much as it feels like they could have. But then again, we don't know very much about the show yet. We know very little. We
obviously know Dr. Light will be in there because of the last name.
Yeah.
We know Rush is going to be in there. I did see the new plot details about that, where Rush is going to be in the series. So there's hope there. I mean, I was really worried when I saw like the new character, Mega Mini. I don't know what that is.
And Mega Mini apparently lives in his helmet.
What?
I don't know. But that's apparently what's going on with Mega Mini.
It's going to have the comedic sidekick. That's what Mega Mini's going to be.
Oh, sure. Well, I think they did talk about how there's going to be some over-the-top humor. I mean, it's straight up. It isn't what existing Mega Man fans want, but it's not for them. You know, it's not for us. It's for a new audience, and that's okay. And, you know, to give a little bit of hope, there is the fact that the Rockman Classics collection in Japan came with that survey that kind of proves Capcom is listening now, at least more than they ever have, because they asked straight up, hey, do you want Mega Man 11? Do you want another Mega Man sequel? So it doesn't sound like they're only committed to this version of Mega Man from now on. They do seem to be listening to fans, you know, if they want other things as well.
Yeah. So, not a great first impression, but also I'm going to give it some slack, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too early to say for sure yet, but certainly not the best first impression for existing fans.
Yep. So, speaking of that, it's been an interesting week for Mega Man news. The Mighty Number 9's latest trailer has come out, and
it's amazing.
Oh boy, yeah,
man! Well, talk about tone-deaf marketing. I mean, God, can you get more tone-deaf?
What were they thinking? They're literally making fun of their target demographic.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what were they thinking?
I don't know. That's the crazy thing is, did you see the? I think it was Iterate's director.
Yeah,
saw the trailer and he's like, "What was that?"
Yeah,
like he's fully putting the blame on Deep Silver. That was entirely Deep Silver's idea, and so can't blame the development team for that whatsoever. That is completely publisher related, and it's like, what is wrong with you? That is like.
Is it completely? Are they completely blameless in this though? Like, should they not be aware of how marketing's being handled for their game?
Sometimes you just don't have you can put in input, but they might not listen.
Yeah, I mean, if they're, it depends on how much Deep Silver helped fund the marketing for this game. I mean, we don't know the contract, but if Deep Silver said, "Hey, we'll help you fund it, but we get full control over promotional material," then there you go.
Well,
nothing you can do about it.
That's still their fault, though. They agreed to that.
They agreed to that, but I still don't think. I mean, they might not have known at the time that.
That's why you don't agree to things like that.
But they needed money, right? So it's hard.
I mean, obviously we don't know the circumstances, but
yeah.
I mean, people were already turned off. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I was going to say you can totally see how that money's on the screen too. But go ahead.
Oh, right, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people were already dubious when they had to get a outside publisher anyway, originally, right?
Yeah, true, totally. So, I mean,
So their entire campaign seems to be misstep after misstep after misstep. So even if they weren't directly involved in this, I don't think they're completely blameless.
That's true. I'm not sure if Iterates specifically might be blameless, but Concept certainly is not. So it's hard to say, because Concept, of course, started development, and Concept is Inafune's company, but Iterates handled most of the development of the game. So it's really hard to say who is blameless in this matter and who isn't. But for sure, I mean, either way, it seems like Iterates had no idea Deep Silver was going to go in this direction for the marketing. And he didn't just not like the trailer. Takuya Aizu, his tweet said, "What the hell was Deep Silver thinking making a crappy PV like this? Unforgivable." I mean, they didn't just kind of not like it, they hated it.
Wasn't there a trailer similar to this, though, not too long ago? I feel like with that voiceover, at least.
That I can think of.
I swear to God, there was something similar to that.
There was, actually. Yeah. I think a few months back. I don't think it was quite as bad as this, though.
It wasn't as bad, but I feel like the tone isn't that much different.
Yeah.
This one's worse, don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is something that should have been brought up before the second one came out.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I mean, I can totally see that they're going for that. They're trying to hit people of that 90s demographic because of the more classic gameplay style. But they're also picking up the bad habits of 90s commercials, because 90s commercials, they're cheesy as hell, but they can be a lot of fun. And this one just sort of overstepped that bounds. And I love, probably my favorite thing, a lot of people focused on the whole anime fan on prom night thing, which is a stupid line. But those explosions and people like making them look like pizza, bad pizza. And like, I loved how they highlighted that in the thumbnail. It's like, action shot, look at these explosions. They look awful.
They really do.
They just look so bad. And the funniest thing probably to come out of all this is the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter, of course, making fun of it too.
That's still the MVP Twitter account, or at least gaming Twitter account. That is, it's consistently hilarious and on point. As I've said before, I mean, every time something Mighty Number 9 related happens, it's hard not to say again that everything regarding this game's marketing and development has just been it's just embarrassing. Like, what? It's so negative. Like, the perception of this game is so overwhelmingly negative now. People are tired of hearing about it. They just want it to come out already. I mean, even backers at this point, I think, are just like, just let me have it already, and then get it over with, and let's move on. I'm tired of hearing about it. And it's a shame, because, I mean, look at what it started as, and now it's just become the complete opposite of that. And it really is interesting to think what could have happened behind the scenes, because I agree, $4 million, we're not seeing that on screen. That's for sure.
Nope.
So, and it does seem like the partnership with Deep Silver has been a cause of a lot of the issues here, because as the story goes, the last 2 delays and a lot of the radio silence about those delays was caused by Deep Silver, I guess some clause in their contract saying that the game had to have online functionality working by the time the game came out. So as the story goes, the last 2 delays were because they hadn't gotten the online leaderboard, race mode, whatever. That wasn't working yet, and Deep Silver wouldn't let them release it until it was. So I don't know how true that is, but that's the story right now.
Yep, it's a mess.
It really is.
Like it. But it's coming out soon, right? So
it is. I got my platform backer survey, and I told Derek, because apparently I'm going to review it, and that's fine. But I told Derek, if I'm reviewing Mighty Number 9, I get to review Bloodstained as well, because that's a game that actually looks like it's turning out to be exactly what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So if I have to do this, I get Bloodstained too.
Look at Ukulele as well. Like another game that looks like.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the latest screenshots. It looks amazing.
It does.
Oh, it does.
So good.
It really looks good. You can have Bloodstained. I'm taking Shantae.
Nice.
We should get. I'm sure Andre has already called dibs on Ukulele.
Oh yeah, sure. That game's right up my alley.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, the next bit of news we got is we talked already about before about PlayStation and Sony looking at a new version of their console, and we've heard rumors of Xbox One doing the same thing. And now we've finally gotten some more, I guess, concrete rumors out of it, because apparently they're getting 2 different forms of their Xbox One. They're looking at a smaller model to come out, I think later this year, and a more powerful model to come out next year. And so, it's the latter is codenamed Scorpio, and the former is, I guess you can look at it like an Xbox One Slim type thing. Which, to be fair, for that one, I'm fine with that. But a more powerful console?
Ugh. I mean, it's the same way I feel about the PS4 Neo and the new 3DS. It's just like these mid-generation iterative upgrades are just not my thing. But I mean, if Sony's going to do one, then Microsoft almost kind of has to do one, because they're directly, they're direct rivals pretty much. The thing that bothers me most about this, though, that isn't part of what Sony has said they're doing, is this whole idea that Xbox One development might become iterative in general, kind of more like a PC, where each year they release like an iterative minor upgrade, and there will be several different compatibilities in terms of future games coming out. Now, that's, of course, mostly speculation, but that is what people close to the story have been saying seems to be happening. And that, I hate so much.
That's an awful idea.
I hate it. Like, I can't even tell you how much I hate that idea.
So I'm going to go against the grain. I think we had some discussion about this before, but it depends on how they do it. Yeah, it is possible that it's rife with problems, and it may ultimately be for the worse. At the same time, I actually think going the more iterative route isn't a bad thing. If it comes, like, I think if they iterate every year or two instead of every generation, I think that actually could be better for the consumer, where you're not starting from ground zero every generation. You have to get brand new hardware every time, as opposed to maybe, like, so here's the real advantage here, is right now, at the end of a generation, or like even in the latter years, every year you wait to buy a system, you get less value or less time value out of it, right? Because you know that generation is going to come to an end at some point. So, like, for instance, why would you buy a Wii U now? It is a complete waste of money. There is no reason to buy a Wii U. I mean, besides to play some of the games, but
I was going to say that's kind of
yeah, those games will still exist. I mean, obviously there's that factor. But if you're looking at it for the long haul, the Wii U is probably one of the worst value propositions out there right now because it is coming to an end. Whereas if they actually move to a full iterative cycle where hardware isn't instantly obsolete when the next one comes out, that means you can hop in at any point in the cycle and be assured that your console will be relevant for at least a period of, hopefully at least a period of several years. So that's actually why I think it's not a bad idea. It's just like with iOS or Android. You can buy a phone and it will continue to work for years. Sure, better ones will come out. Your phone will no longer be top of the line. Those new phones will run games better than your current one does. But most phones can handle most games just fine. And this is, of course, how the PC market has worked, basically for decades.
Well, and that's my main problem with it is that there has been a divide between console and PC gaming because they emphasize different things. Console gaming has traditionally emphasized convenience over cutting edge specs, which is one of the main reasons I prefer console gaming is because I don't have to worry about compatibility. I don't have to worry about so many different versions of a console working with certain games and not working with others. And to kind of bring up a counterpoint to your phone argument, there have been a lot of issues with people paying for games on the App Store, like on the iPhone, for instance, and those games simply stop working on new versions of iOS. They don't work, and you can't get your money back, and the developer doesn't do anything about it. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that market segmentation come to consoles ever.
And to have such a short cycle, like, oh, great, I got this version, and now 2 years later, oh, good, this $300 thing console I just got is now not going to run the newest game. Like, oh no, I can't play Halo 6.
We don't know, but we all know that, though.
But if the rumor holds true, and that's the way they're doing this, that is the worst case scenario in my opinion. If all of a sudden I have to upgrade in order to play the latest games, that's a deal breaker.
But you always have to do that. That's literally every generation.
You didn't have to buy a PS4 Neo to play Uncharted 4. I mean, like,
my point is that it's already happened. It's on a longer time cycle. Like,
true.
All this. So what I'm saying is, I mean, again, the devil's in the details, right? It comes down to how they pull this off. I don't think we're going to see many cases. I mean, so in the case of the PS4K, at least going by the leaked details, we already know this isn't the case.
Right.
We already know that if you're going to make a game with the PS4K, it has to work on the previous version of the PS4. Mm-hmm. And assuming Microsoft does the same thing, which I feel like they have to, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Now, granted, it will be at some point because you can't keep supporting old hardware forever. But then, if they do on a timetable similar to how existing consoles work or existing generations work, I don't think there's a problem there at all.
I don't know. I kind of feel what you said about value proposition. It goes both ways. I mean, I see what you're saying about that, but at the same time, if you're buying into a console ecosystem that you know the console you're buying is already going to be obsolete within a year because they are doing yearly iterative upgrades, then I feel like there isn't a whole lot of value proposition in whatever you decide to buy because you know that by next year, your Xbox One, your specific version of it's going to be obsolete, and you may have to buy a new one to play or at least get the best experience with the latest games. Again, the devil is in details. We don't know how Microsoft
does that stop you from buying phones?
No, but again, I don't really view phones as a gaming platform for me personally. I buy phones for other reasons.
So the way I think they would have to do this is, I don't think we'd ever see. Again, this is assuming they move to a full iterative model. If this is just a step up like the new 3DS, and then they move on to a new proper generation, this entire argument's basically moot.
Exactly.
Right.
But I feel like the way they would do it is it'd be an ongoing thing, in the sense that, like, I don't think the next version or the latest version would ever make the previous one instantly obsolete for every game, or even any game. I think the way it would work would be kind of like on PCs, where, let's say there's like 2 or 3 generations of hardware that's supported. But if you go too far back, that's when stuff stops working. So I feel like this is the case here. I feel like with the next Xbox, whatever they end up calling this one, the next iteration of the Xbox One, that I don't think it's going to have any games exclusive to it. But let's say, with the next one, that might be when they stop working on the original version of the Xbox One. And at that point, we're, 4 or 5 years out from the original release? That's why assuming how they handle this, and I think they have to handle it this way, I don't see a problem here necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. There is a scenario in which this all turns out okay, and that may be what ends up happening if there's even water to this rumor at all. But
I feel like there is.
I think there is too. I mean, I think if they handle it like Sony will, then yeah, I think it'll be fine. But hey, we saw in the past that Microsoft thought their draconian DRM was a good idea, and look how that backfired on them. And they actually thought that was going to work. They really thought that was going to go over well with people. So who's to say that they aren't just similarly fooling themselves and saying, okay, well, this is going to be great. No one's going to be bothered by this, and then the backlash happens.
Yeah, I think. So, I mean, again, it totally comes down to how they do this. Like, I'm looking at an ideal scenario. Maybe it won't turn out that way. But I don't think... There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions to this, and I don't think it's necessarily a negative. Because I like the idea of if they can keep this going where... especially, like, moving forward, if games are just continue to work on this hardware basically perpetually, that'll be awesome. Like, I love the idea if I don't have to bring out my, old Xbox or old Nintendo system to play old games. I would love it if the games made now will continue to work on future hardware.
Sure.
So, and especially with, at least for me, like, I fully embrace the digital future. And if I don't have to keep track of CDs and DVDs, I love that idea, and that makes even more sense, assuming assuming future hardware works with current games, and assuming Nintendo. If we move on to Nintendo for a moment, if Nintendo actually, embraces how digital games should work, and being able to carry them up from one platform to another and track them with an account. I don't know. It could be bad. I'm not necessarily seeing it that way, but I don't think the market will allow for it. So, especially with how Microsoft has been cornered by Sony at the moment, they can't afford to piss off their existing demographic.
That's a good point. They have to do something, but they can't afford to piss off their existing fan base.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we already saw how they reacted before in face of, as you mentioned, their original DRM model, and they did a full 180 on that, basically.
They did a quick 180 on
that.
Yeah.
And then they dropped the Kinect as well. So I'm not too afraid of this time. Like, if Sony were, like, I mean, I'm just gonna end it there. I'm not too worried. So
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it all really depends on what form it takes. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next news topic, we have Shadow of the Eternals might return, and they have a new studio name. So, Andre, I picked this one out because of our history with this.
Oh my god.
Because
that analysis I put so much time into, and it did, like, nothing view-wise.
Yeah, exactly. It's, basically, a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. That's awesome. We love that game. Let's do an analysis of this concept trailer they have and try to see what kind of connections they had. Nobody cared, and that was just that just sort of carried on the whole idea of this new game, because for some reason they're trying for a third time because they failed to get this thing funded twice. They've rebranded their company as Quantum Entanglement Entertainment, which is really dumb to say, now that I think about it. But yeah. But the thing is, they have not learned a single lesson, because immediately Dennis Dyack is still involved with this and has said that the coverage that the game got from sites like Kotaku or people like Jim Sterling, it was extremely unethical and promised karmic comeuppance for them. What the heck is he talking about?
This guy is like one of the biggest tools in the industry, straight up.
Yeah, I mean, he is just flabbergasted at the thought that people did not like his Too Human. X-Men, what was it? What X-Men, that X-Men game they made was awful. Something happened to them after Eternal Darkness, and they just have sucked.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if there's any current example of a Kickstarter thing worse than Mighty Number 9, this is it. Like I feel like Shadow of the Eternals is actually somehow...
Well, hold on. In their defense, they haven't actually taken anyone's money yet, right? So
that's
true.
Nobody's foolish enough to give them money.
Nobody would. Yeah, that's a good point. But man, actually, the Destructoid article opens perfectly. This is exactly what I was going to say. Man, Shadow of the Eternals, what a mess. Like, what else can you really say about it?
Maybe it's just part of the marketing. This is a really well done insanity effect.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I feel like Dennis Dyack just either doesn't get, or like genuinely doesn't get, or doesn't care that people don't want anything to do with him and don't want him to have anything to do with this game. Like, he just seems to just be completely tone deaf to how people feel about him. Or maybe he just doesn't care.
That could be it too. This is his big ego project. Back when they were getting all the accolades, they went from Eternal Darkness to being asked by Konami and Kojima to do the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1 on GameCube, that Twin Snakes port remake. And that did pretty well. It had issues, but it did well. And I don't know. The whole... Basically, ever since Too Human happened and in that development hell, they just lost it. And this is not going to get funded at all. And unfortunately, Eternal Darkness is just a fluke of a game.
Yeah, it's not going to get funded. I mean, the problem... I mean, I was excited initially for like a sequel to Eternal Darkness, but I'm past the point of caring at this point, and I feel like everyone is. So
yeah, I think so. I think this ship has sailed. I don't think there are that many people, if anyone out there, who really is just carrying the torch for Shadow of the Eternals anymore, aside from Dennis Dyack. I don't think people care anymore, and I think it's just there's too much negative press surrounding it. I mean, it's kind of, again, similar to Mighty Number 9, where it's people just want it to go away already.
Well, yeah, we've seen an example of this before with like Red Ash and how that failed.
That true, that too.
So I feel like Shadows of the Eternal is just a quicker version of that. So.
I would say it's actually a longer version because Red Ash came and went very quickly after people said they didn't want it.
That's true.
This has been just
one with fewer milestones is what I meant. But
I feel like this has been happening for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been a while, or maybe even longer than that.
I think this happened in 2013, according to that article.
3 years then. Jeez.
God, I'm just kind of sick of hearing about it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, there's no redeeming it. I feel like at this point, unless they got private funding.
And I'm sorry if you're calling your company or your YouTube channel Quantum Entanglement Entertainment, you already are not getting any money from me. Like, what is that? That's like the most hipster, ridiculous. That's ridiculous. What is that?
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't even realize at first that wasn't Quantum. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you?
Quantic Dream was pushing it, but okay, I'll accept Quantic Dream. Quantum Entanglement? No, you guys are done. I don't want your game. I don't want your channel. I don't want any of it.
Oh shoot. But it's I don't know. I saw this and I thought about that hell that we went through, Andre. It's like, wow, that was just not worth it at all.
That was a major wasted effort.
Yeah.
We should be careful though, because we might be named as extremely unethical. We might be next.
Well,
and Dyack might promise karmic comeuppance for us as well, so we should be careful, you know?
Well, that's when you know you've made it, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, the last thing we're going to hand off here, it's not going to be a very long one, but I saw a lot of people asking us to talk about this Nintendo MH rumor. And the thing is, we have not talked about it at all because it's not a thing.
It's not even a rumor.
There's not much
exactly.
to talk about.
Yeah.
It's basically that a report came out of a Japanese investment firm talking about various things, and one of the things they did was they pictured a scenario about a Nintendo portable console, and to make it easier so they didn't have to they had to refer to it by something, they decided to give it the code name MH. And people latched onto that and thought, oh, Nintendo's making a new console and its new code name is MH. So it's different from the NX. It's like, no, nothing to do with each other. So just more of a clarification type thing.
Yeah, but it did get spread around pretty quickly by a lot of people who didn't fully understand what it was. Mm-hmm. I will say they probably could have chosen a better mock code name than MH if they really didn't want that to be confused with the NX.
Yeah. What is MH? I don't even know what the heck they were going for there.
Monster Hunter. It's going to be a console that only plays Monster Hunter games.
There you go.
Or a handheld. That's it. Yeah.
That'd be pretty great. I actually do want to use this as a quick launching off point, just for the NX in general. Seeing as how we still know very little or almost nothing about the system concretely. But I've come around a little bit more to the idea of maybe, what if it is a handheld? Like, I'm starting to think it might actually be more of a handheld at this point than a proper console. And the proper console may come later. And I think this for a couple of reasons. One, I floated the idea, of course, because of its March release date, which only Nintendo handhelds have had before. And if they wanted to mirror, the GBA and GameCube launch, then the console may come later that same year. Beyond that, though, is the fact that there have been some pretty solid rumors, I think, from... It might have been Emily Rogers again? I can't... Or no, there was another independent report, I believe, from someone else. I forget the publication. Of it using the, latest NVIDIA mobile, graphics chip, I believe. And that seems like it'd be unlikely for a Nintendo console. And I'm wondering if this maybe is truly going to be a handheld, which might also explain why they're totally okay with still showing Zelda Wii U as a Wii U title. If maybe the NX won't be a definitive one, or at the least won't be one that's a huge step beyond it. So I'm starting to wonder, what if this actually is kind of a handheld? And obviously not purely a handheld. We already know they're doing some kind of merging of the two at this point, or some kind of I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of hybrid, I guess. Mm-hmm. But I do wonder if it's going to have more of a handheld focus, or maybe more of a console coming later on.
The only thing the only counterpoint I have to that is that, clearly the Wii U is ramping down production.
Yeah,
it's pretty much over at this point. So if they're not working on a console, how can they bridge an even longer gap between the end of the Wii U and the launch of whatever? If the NX is a handheld, not a console, then what?
So, I guess this gets down to the question of how much of a handheld versus console is it?
Right.
And I think this one might be going right down that line, where maybe it's something you can play as a handheld, but also connects to your TV so you can play it as a console. In which case, it can serve as both the replacement to the Wii U as well as the 3DS.
God, how selfish of it.
Yeah.
Right? God, this NX is just so selfish.
I know. So, in which case, I wouldn't expect it to be a monumental jump up, at least graphically, from what the Wii U is necessarily. But it may serve that. It may serve as a replacement still, with maybe something more final that can connect to it as well, coming later on, perhaps, that is a full console replacement.
God, I'm with Derek. I just want them to announce this thing already,
so
we can stop speculating about it.
That's why I haven't said a word, because it's I feel like we've talked about this type of thing before already.
Yeah.
You have different evidence to supporting it now, which gives it a little bit more of a different angle, and it does make a certain amount of sense, but I just don't care anymore. Just give me the damn system.
It is rumor burnout, right? Well, and that's also part of the reason why we didn't even cover the MH. Well, first off, the fact there was nothing to it. But we've also been covering less rumors in general, also because there have been less of them.
Thank God.
But it's been kind of, I don't know. I'm reaching a point where I'm almost beyond caring now. I will care once they announce it. I'm almost beyond caring about anything related to it, though, until we actually know what it is.
Yeah. Unless Nintendo's saying it, I don't care.
Because it hurts too much to care. It's not that we don't care, we actually don't care. It's that it's exhausting to care about all these rumors. It's we want to care, but it's just at some point it's okay, you know what? We have to stop being so invested in every little piece of news that comes out about the NX, because it's still all speculation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once that reveal event happens, we're going to be like kids on Christmas morning. Mm-hmm. But until then, it's okay, you know what? We just need to we can't hang on every word that anyone says about the NX at this point.
Because the whole build up to a new console is always exciting.
Yeah.
When it's coming out, what kind of launch titles we're looking at, what might be possible, that's always fun. But let me have something solid to get excited about.
Derek, just so you know, I'm already working on my own rumor, complete with like Photoshop evidence and everything about like the new characters coming to Smash NX specifically for you. So I'm gonna anonymously disseminate it on like 4chan.
I did not feel
Reddit.
bad about making you review Mighty Number 9 then.
Oh yeah, I guess I deserve it. Yeah, if I was gonna do that, I would definitely deserve it.
All right, well, I think that about covers it for our news topics this week. And that's it for the news, but there's more where that came from, so make sure to check out our full Real Talk podcast on either SoundCloud or iTunes by using the links in the description below. Until next time, bye.